Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews, coming at you online and in print format at nicktiffany.com, in audio wherever you get your podcasts, and even in video on YouTube. Today we have probably one of the hotter awards contender films of the year to talk about. That's A24's The Iron Claw, written and directed by Sean Durkin. The film stars Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, essentially as this group of brothers, Stanley Simons, the Von Erich brothers. They were a group of wrestlers from the Texas area back in the 80s. And I didn't know much of anything going into this movie. I just knew it was going to be sports biopic about a tragic family of wrestlers. And I knew that it was kind of focused around a group of brothers and kind of their bond, but nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. I mean, this movie is not even entirely the whole true story of what happened to the Von Erichs, but good God, I mean, this is like harrowing, just awful, awful stuff. Yeah, I mean, gosh. Wait, I mean, the film is great. The film is really, really terrific. Zac Efron, in particular, as the oldest brother Kevin. I mean, he is fantastic. This is a story not only about obviously what familial pressure can do, this idea of living up to your father, which in this case, their father was the one who had this famous move, the Iron Claw. Fritz von Erich, who's played incredibly by Holt McCallany, who you might know from Mindhunters on Netflix for those fans out there. I knew the name going into the film, and then as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, he's good. He's really good at being an asshole. And as the wrestling father who never earned his shot at the championship belt, he made it his goal to make sure that he would raise a family of wrestlers and sons who could hopefully eventually bring that belt and glory into his home. And obviously, with all that kind of pressure, you would hope that dad wasn't a total jackass and just militant style, careless, thoughtless, but nope. These boys are, it was a good thing, I think, that the boys had each other, because there's fighting for your father's approval and there's also fighting for his acceptance. And, when you've got a dad who ranks the order of his favorite children, but does tell you, that order can always shift. There's so many cues early on in the film that just kind of set you up for what you already kind of feel, which is, these brothers love each other more than anything. These guys are all that they have. Jeremy Allen White, who plays Kerry Von Erich, was an Olympic to be athlete, who kind of sucked into the world of wrestling because it's like, well, it's the family sport and dad asks and we do what dad says. You've got Harris Dickinson, who plays David, who's kind of younger than the two, kind of taller than them though, than Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White's Kevin and Kerry. But then there's Michael, and Michael is quiet. He is musical. He's talented in so many ways. He's not big and bulky like him. He's tall, but he's not bulky like his brothers. And, of course, dad always picks on him and makes choice comments about him that the brothers find themselves, trying to help him with. And there's a half of this movie that's just a really beautiful story of these brothers. Their resilience, both in the ring when they were wrestling and the amount of pain that they could take, and then the amount of pain that they could take at home when they were with their family and parents who were closed off and would tell them, no, you go talk to your brothers about this stuff. This isn't something that I'm supposed to deal with. And what the film really revolves around, though, is this idea of the Von Erich family curse, which is something that Kevin tells Lily James's character, Pam, in the film, as he's like, after my dad changed his name for wrestling, for the stage name, bad things started happening to our family. It kind of started because they lost a son at 5 years old who was technically older than Zac Efron's character was at one time. And because of that, they felt, the family's cursed. Bad things always happen to us. Um, and you really want to hope that, there is no such thing as a curse. There's not. Um, but after watching the film, it's hard to feel like maybe there's not a curse, or maybe like a lot of things, there's this self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately. Um, and the prophecy their father was laying out for them was one that just never had their best interest in mind, unfortunately. But man, there's so many beautiful, wonderful moments in the movie, especially between Zac Efron and Lily James. Especially as an adult man who only really has his brothers and doesn't have a lot of practice doing any other thing than wrestling and winning his dad's affection. Trying to talk to people, let alone a woman, is difficult but funny. Very funny. I mean, there's some really funny bits in this film. There's fun flashbacks and actual footage from a lot of WWE deals. I mean, you've got Ric Flair and all these guys doing their, I want you chumps in the ring. Nobody's better than me. I got a bigger watch. I got a bigger car, bigger house. This whole wrestling persona. I mean, some of it genuinely is really funny. And watching how they stage some of it is really interesting to see. And also funny because a lot of people feel like, oh, wrestling's fake, it's all fake. Some of it, yes, is scripted, but actually carrying it out, looking the way they do, staying in the shape that they do, taking some of the hits that they do is still impressive and physically demanding. And the more you go through the film, too, though, I mean, the more you see that. Like Zac Efron was already, I mean, I feel like he'd already gotten big recently after he did the Baywatch movie. And I'm sure he just stayed in that shape. This was like Christian Bale, Batman style, like bulking up. I mean, he's shredded for this movie, like almost uncomfortably large in the sense that a wrestler might be. You're just like, dude, you're massive. I don't know. I'm like watching him do sit ups. I was like, do your abs hurt because they're just like crunching against themselves? It was ridiculous. Jeremy Allen White, all of them just got shredded for this movie. And so that physically, they fit the part so well. And they're actually in there wrestling, doing these moves, and it looks incredible. I think and then I've talked to a few other people about this. I think the storytelling perhaps might be the weakest element of the film. I think it does have a few pacing issues, or maybe it's just how it was edited. I feel like there were moments where I was like, oh, well, like surely it's wrapping up. And then you're like, but wait, there's more. And then you're like, okay, well, now I'm sure that's it. And you're like, but wait, there's more. And there's almost a point where you feel like, unfortunately, like, wow, I can't imagine anything more bad happening to this family. And then, but wait, there's more. And so I don't know. There's part of me that doesn't know how they would have done it better, because there's even a brother that wasn't in the film who was also a part of this tragic story and also an aspiring wrestler. And I feel like what they tried to balance in the movie was, I don't know if audiences are really going to believe that things were this intense and that it was this serious and this many horrible things happening, but it's like, it was. And this is why people are like, well, this has got to be a movie. And now it is. And so I don't know. I think the writing could have been a little better. I think a lot of stuff either is left to your interpretation, or you're like, all right, I get that he's an asshole. I kind of wish someone would just say something about it, or have some confrontation moment, or like you kind of like, I think this might be going on the side, but I'm not really sure, because they don't totally want to commit and tell us that, I guess, or like spend the time to show us that. But by and large, I think I still am in the camp of really, really enjoying this. It's one of those. I mean, after the movie, went home. Not only was I talking about it with a good friend who's a fan of wrestling and knew this story, but just reading even just the Wikipedia, even the bare bones of the Wikipedia, it's just like, oh my god, this story is unbelievable. And it is just tragic. And so it's this weird side of like, it's a tremendous story, tremendous film. But geez, it's like, it's hard to say that kind of though too, because it's not totally all feel good or feel bad, but it's tough. And it really, I think just for me, always reaffirms what I've thought about people who, whether it's they're trying to live through their kids or live vicariously through someone else, this pressure that you can put on people who look up to you, and the way that you can mentally beat someone and shape them to your own will. It's just, it's horrible. It's really horrible. And so watching this was just like, God, there's some awful people out there. There's some really great people out there, but there's some awful people. And seeing the lengths that these boys will go to in order to please their father or to try to fit in with the family, it's understandable given their situation, but just all the more hurtful and harmful to watch just because you want so much better for them. And you're like, well, now I know this is a true story, so I don't have high hopes for where it's going to go, unfortunately. But God, if you have the stomach for family tragedy and just a lot of sad scenarios and situations, I think this is a film that is really going to resonate with a lot of people. I think it's going to, I think it's definitely going to be nominated for a lot of awards. And for what it's worth, I think Zac Efron delivers one of the best acting performances just in general of the year and perhaps of his career. Far more dramatic side than we're used to seeing from him, but one that is also such a physically informed role that just says so much through so many of his motions and so many of the ways he carries himself and his body. It's devastating stuff, but makes for truly a great story on screen, and one that is endlessly fascinating. Unfortunately, for most of the wrong reasons, but there are some silver linings in the story as well, and I think that definitely helps kind of wrap everything up. Because I don't know how you could put a bow on this story. The wrestling stuff's great, performances terrific across the board. Jeremy Allen White too, just in riding the success of The Bear. Love seeing him popping up in films now. He was phenomenal in this movie as well. But just tough stuff. A24 knows how to pick them. Jeez, I like this. This is just one where I feel like it's hard to do this review without spoiling a lot, and so I'm not going to say anything more. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to say you should check it out, and then after you've watched it, maybe we can have some sort of discussion breaking it down or what people thought, because it's going to be one where people feel a lot of ways, especially about how certain aspects of maybe life and death are discussed or shown in the film as well. I'm sure people might have their own thoughts on that. So see the movie and then let's talk about it. We're going to have a lot more awards coverage coming up as well. Getting into best of lists now that I'm finally seeing everything else that needs to be seen. So there'll be no shortage of content coming out. As always, stay tuned to NT Movie Reviews on all social media networks, podcast platforms, and even on YouTube to get all the latest. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.